Hi and welcome back to Writer's Blocks. I'm Lee and today I have a 5-star prediction video. So I've picked 10 books that I think that I'm going to absolutely love and will end up rating at 5 stars when I read them. I've only picked books that are on my physical TBR, not books that I don't actually own. Most of these books are adult and all of them are speculative fiction. 6 of them are adult, 1 of them is middle grade, and 3 of them are young adult, with 4 of them being sci-fi and the rest being fantasy. So the first one is Rosewater by Tade Thompson. So this is a science fiction set in Nigeria, in a town called Rosewater. It is a community who lives on the edges of an alien biodome, who are desperate to get a glimpse inside of it and to taste its rumored healing powers. Kara, a government agent with a criminal past, has seen inside the biodome and doesn't care to try again. When something starts killing other people like him, Barrow must defy his masters and search for an answer, facing his dark history and coming to a realization about a horrifying future. So this is a trilogy called the Wormwood Trilogy. It has an average rating of 3.78, however, most of the people who have similar tastes to me have all rated it 5 stars. Next is The Humans by Matt Haig. This is a contemporary sci-fi in which an alien is sent to Earth to kill a scientist who has discovered this mathematical formula that aliens believe humans aren't ready for. And he's tasked to erase pretty much any evidence that this formula was ever discovered by them. But in the meantime, he's kind of got to blend in with humans and learn about how humans work and how we live. So it ends up being a bit of a funny story with a light-hearted message about humanity. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about this book. It has an average rating of 4.07 on Goodreads. And again, everyone with similar taste to me has also rated this 5 stars. The next book is Semiosis by Sue Burke. This is a sci-fi duology, first contact with aliens, though it focuses more on the biology side of it instead of physics and technology, which a lot of sci-fis tend to focus on. So in this book, humans have discovered a planet called Pax that looks like it's pretty much utopia, and they try to colonize it, but when they get there, they realize that the plants on Pax are actually intelligent and they domesticate and farm the animals and other life forms on this planet, and they hunt the animals for fun and whatnot. So when humans get there, they have to kind of, what at first looks like paradise, they soon realize is much more horrifying, and they kind of have to try and make a bargain with these plants so that they can live on the world and not instead become these plants' prey and slaves. But how do you do that when you have no way to communicate with these plants? This has an average rating of 3.9 on Goodreads. The next book is the single middle grade that's on this list, and that is Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the sequel to Nevermore, which I rated 5 stars. So Nevermore is a story about a girl called Morgan Crow, who is a cursed child who is destined to die on her 11th birthday. But when that day comes around, she ends up getting whisked away to this magical world called Nevermore, and there she discovers she might actually be special other than just being cursed, and there might be that she's not cursed, she's actually got some gifts she's not aware of. And the man who whisked her away to Nevermore is convinced that she's special, and he wants her to join the Wondrous Society, this kind of magical school in Nevermore for all these gifted people with these magical abilities. And so she has to go through these various trials to try and prove herself worthy of this school, and also kind of prove that she is actually gifted, when as far as she's aware, she's nothing special and she's actually the cause of everything bad in her world. So this is an extremely beloved middle grade series, and it has a 4.5 gradings on Goodreads, and every single person I know, every single book trip I've ever watched, absolutely loves this series. I've never heard someone say anything bad about it. And seeing as I loved the first book, I'm assuming I will love the second and the third. The next book is Barrow by John Nafueko. This is a YA fantasy. I don't actually know too much about this book. I just know that it was extremely popular when it first came out, and everyone was talking about how phenomenal it is, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. It has an average rating of 4.4 on Goodreads. So what I do know about this book is that it's about a girl called Darcy who's grown up in a very isolated world where she's got a very distant and cold-hearted mother who she knows pretty much nothing about, and she's referred to simply as the lady. And her mother insists that she must go to the capital and try to become a member of the Crown Prince's Council, which Darcy desperately wants because it will provide her with the family and closeness that she desperately needs and has been starved of her whole life. But her mother, the lady, puts a magical curse on her, making it so that if she is chosen to be in this council, she will be compelled to kill the Crown Prince. But Darcy desperately does not want to do this and has to try and fight her way against this magical curse, and while still being loyal to her mother and the Crown Prince. The next book is Alas Away by Darcy Littlebadger. This has a 4.1 rating on Goodreads, and again this is a book that is beloved by quite a lot of people, though I do know that people who don't like weird magical realism books generally don't like this, but those are kind of stories that I do like, so I'm assuming I'll fit on the side of people liking it. So this story is written by a Native American woman, and it is based on Native American folktales and mythology. And in this world, there's always been magic kind of weaved into society a little bit. And so our protagonist, Alas Away, her cousin gets murdered, but no one in the town wants to investigate it. Everyone just kind of wants to hush it up and kind of not disturb the peace. But she's determined to get to the bottom of it, and she will use her abilities of summoning ghosts to help her unravel the dark history behind her town, the dark history behind her cousin's murder, and find out what it is that the rest of the town is so desperate to keep hidden. So frankly, it sounds like the perfect book for me, and I expected to really love it and probably end up being one of my favourites of all time. The next book is Freshwater by Kweke Emezi. This has a rating of 4.03 on Goodreads. Goodreads does list it as an LGBT book, and as far as I'm aware, I've heard people say there's trans rep in here, and I know that Kweke Emezi themselves are trans, but reading the synopsis, it's not particularly clear where that ties into the book. So in this book, we've got Ada, who has always been a troubled child. Her parents kind of wished her into existence and prayed for her to survive, but then once she was born, it was very obvious to people that there was something different about her, and then she was always described as having one foot on the other side. And as she grows older, she starts to kind of split off into different identities, and this becomes a huge concern for her family. But as she gets older, she becomes very volatile and aggressive. And eventually she ends up moving to America, where she goes to college, and these various different identities and cells inside of her become more powerful and start having agency over her. And then a traumatic assault ends up crystallizing these identities, and they end up taking the forefront in her life and kind of pushing Anna to the background of her own reality. So to me, it sounds like it's a book about dissociative personality disorder, but I'm not entirely sure. It does list it as a mental health book. This is once again a book that I've only heard people give high praise to and rate it like 4 or 5 stars. The next book I have is You Must Not Miss by Katrina Leno, and it has a rating of 3.7 on Goodreads. From what I've seen, most people either love Katrina Leno's books or think they're meh. I personally, of the ones I have read, I have loved, so I'm assuming I will love this as well. So this features Magpie Lewis, whose family has kind of, and whole world has kind of self-destructed as it's revealed that her father has been cheating on her mother, and so they end up getting divorced, and at the same time her sister runs away and abandons Magpie to have to deal with the fallout of their family breaking up. On the same night that something bad happens at Brendan Pip's party, which ends up causing her to be labelled as a slut in her high school, and everyone ostracizes her and no one wants to be friends with her anymore. Based on this, and based on her previous books, I'm thinking the traumatic event is rape, as her previous books have all dealt with rape culture. But in order to escape the rather depressing turn her life has taken, Magpie starts writing in her little notebook about this magical world called Near. She ends up writing it into reality in the back of her garden, and at first it seems like a wonderful utopia where everything is perfect and she can escape from all her nightmares and worries, but soon all the demons that are haunting her end up manifesting in a physical form in Near as well, and ends up having to be that she has to confront her demons face on in a literal manner. The next book is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This is a sci-fi set in New York and has an average rating of 3.95. There is a short story that prequels this called The City Born Great, which I have already read, and as far as I'm aware is free to read on the internet. So in this world, cities have souls, and it's kind of like, depending on how old they are and how much culture and like life they have, it depends on whether they actually become alive and get born. And in this world, New York has now existed for long enough, and it has enough diversity and culture in it that it's about to be born and about to have a soul. But each of the different, I don't know what they're called, districts in New York have their own little fraction of a soul, and they manifest in a actual person who lives in that area, and it's their job to protect New York and keep it alive, and specifically to protect it from this evil darkness that wants to destroy these cities and wants to stop them from coming alive. This is again a very beloved book, and N.K. Jemisin is pretty much beloved for every book she writes. The final book on this list is Sanctuary by V.V. James. This is a fantasy murder mystery in the town called Sanctuary, which is this little cutesy little town in rural America where this teenager boy dies in a tragic accident, but his girlfriend ends up getting accused of murder because her mother is a witch. The mother of the boy is willing to go to extreme lengths to get justice for her son's death, whereas the mother of the accused girl is also willing to go to extreme lengths to protect her daughter from being falsely accused of murder. But both these mothers have dark secrets and a dark history that ties them together, and it is the job of Detective Maggie Knight to unravel the mystery and find out what's actually really happening in this town, and find out that it's not so cozy and sweet as it seems, which is always the story. So this has a 3.9 rating on Goodreads. I don't know anyone who has read it, but from the synopsis it sounds like something I would really love. So that is all the books for this video. If you want to check out any of the books I've mentioned in this video, there is a link in the description to Book Depository, where if you make a purchase from there, we will get a 5% commission. You will also see links to our website, Instagram, and Facebook and Twitter. Please like the video if you liked it and subscribe, and we will see you next week with a video from Chris.